Some news regarding Florida State's schedule. Always fun. This is the time of year where we get excited about things like this, like looking ahead. When are we playing that team and that quarterback and that coach? And when do we go here? Do we get a bye? What do we have? Well, we've got some nuggets for you here. Welcome in, Warchant.com, Warchant TV. Always appreciate you. He's Tom Lang. I'm Jeff Cameron. And just after we got done with the Jeff Cameron Show, we had the opportunity now to jump in here and talk some more because the ACC revealed, and if you will, drum roll, boom, there it is. Scroll down a little bit. You knew some of those things. You didn't know all of them. We'll talk about it right now. But the Virginia game is the ACC opener for Florida State. You see there the graphic that Tom has posted. That game will be played on a Friday night, the 26th. We also know, because of other schedules being released and other ACC openers, that we play Miami on the 4th of October. Already knew about the Florida game, of course, but Tom, you're right there to project that bye. I think there's no way it can't be anything but a bye. So now we get a sense, kind of meat and potatoes here. We almost know the schedule at this point. It's Alabama to start the year, East Texas A&M. Projected bye, we think, on the 13th. Then you get Kent State. Then it's at Virginia in your ACC opener. We're playing the role of Miami's ACC opener. And then it's at Florida. That's the look. That's the like. By the way, of course, that Miami game is here in Tallahassee at the newly renovated, all sparkling and happy in Doe Campbell Stadium.
With all their price points, all 12 to 16 price points for everybody that wants to be a part of the game. You certainly can. Yeah, this is interesting news to me because I was just looking for two pieces of knowledge. Florida State's opener. You thought it was going to be on the road. We discussed this during the show. Because if it was going to slot in on the 13th of the month, you weren't going to play 4 consecutive home games. It just doesn't make sense logistically for the town.
That's
right.
You
wouldn't want that. Well, if it wasn't going to be on the 13th, you knew it was going to be a bye because Florida State's non-conference schedule is complete and it's on set dates with the aforementioned Bama, Florida, East Texas A&M, and Kent State. So unless something changes with a non-conference opponent, your bye week, one of two, there are 2 bye weeks this year that's important to remember, there's 2, is going to be early on September the 13th. You gather yourself. One other thing to know by process of elimination and looking at opponent schedules is that Miami already has its September set. They open with Notre Dame.
That's right.
They play Bethune-Cookman, they play USF, and they play Florida in the month of September. They don't play anybody on the 27th. So if their ACC opener is on the 4th.
So they have a bye coming into us.
They've got a bye coming in to play Florida State. Advantage Miami there. We at least play the Friday game against Virginia. We'll have an extra day of preparation for Miami on the other side of a trip to Charlotte.
Added note on that is Chandler Morris is the transfer quarterback for Virginia. He comes over from North Texas where he was very, very productive. He is the son of Chad Morris, who we remember at Clemson, by the way. Tony Elliott, the coach at Virginia, who used to work with Chandler Morris's father, Chad Morris at Clemson. I'll get it together, guys. You get the connection.
Mr. Bag of Tricks in 2012.
Chandler is a kid who threw for 3,774 yards, 242 rushing yards, and 35 touchdowns for the Mean Green. He was one of the big top 20 transfer quarterbacks in the portal right as the season ended. Well down the list from obvious guys like Malik Murphy and Billy Edwards and Van Buren and Miller Moss and those kinds of players. But nonetheless, a well-thought-of quarterback that will take the helm there at Virginia. And by virtue of that, we know DJ Lagway plays quarterback at Florida. We know that Carson Beck will be playing quarterback at Miami. Start looking at the quarterbacks you face. We don't yet know who's going to be the quarterback necessarily at Alabama, but that's sort of the situation we find ourselves in. By the way, Virginia, the first ACC team, as we're noting here, will have played Stanford the week before they play Florida State. In fact, Virginia, you'll get a good look at before we face them. Coastal Carolina, Stanford, then us.
So just looking at this slate here, what's left to learn, what's left to know? There's going to be a second bye week that slots in somewhere. I can't imagine it's going to be in early October. You don't want to stack those things early if you have multiple. Probably looking at late October, early November for bye week number 2. But then your opponents that are not revealed just yet, home dates with Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest, and then road dates with Clemson, Stanford, and NC State. So you've got those 6 games plus a bye week that are going to fill out the gap between where Miami sits on the schedule and then where Florida is on the schedule. So that's what's remaining to know, what we have left to know. One rivalry game is floating out there with Clemson. So we'll see where that one fits on the schedule. Hopefully it's on the other side of a bye week. We'll find out. That's Monday night when the ACC releases the full schedule. But for now, this looks like a pretty doable. I know we just came off a 2-10. I'm not doing that thing.
Say, don't do it.
I'm just saying.
Don't do it.
If you're going to assume competence out of Florida State, if you're going to assume competence, there's a chance to get out of September with 3 wins, because that's before you host Miami, but you have 2 games that you should absolutely win, Virginia and Alabama. Can you split those and be 3-1 facing Miami?
Or you could just win them all, Tom Lang. Go into that rivalry game with Miami on the 4th of October like it was the 90s, and both teams kicking ass, ready to face each other in a monster tilt. Who knows? Hope springs eternal, buddy. Let's hang in there. We'll find out the rest of the schedule. I like it too, though.
Okay, so Miami, just quickly, it used to always be in early October.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, when I was a student, absolutely.
Was it fixed the first Saturday in October? Was it like third?
Yeah, for a long time it was, and we'd play at noon a lot of times. Yeah.
We didn't see a whole lot of nooners this year.
No.
But so does it strike you as something that interests you to see Miami on the schedule at that point? Would you rather seen Clemson there?
No, love it. I think it's great. And I actually, of the ACC openers that we could have had, you and I were talking on the JCS that it could have been NC State.
Yep.
And we were on the road and we were thinking, Virginia's fine. I'm fine with that. I mean, we should have it buttoned up enough to go on the road and capture a win in Charlottesville. I mean, I don't assume anything anymore. None of us will, but I like that matchup.
I know one thing that's near and dear to your heart is good football weather. This increases the chances that you're going to have several road games with good football weather. North Carolina in mid to late October should be good football weather.
Yes, sir.
Clemson, South Carolina can get a little chilly in October or November. And the big one that's out there, the West Coast trip to Stanford, is not known at this time. It has to, by definition, fall. They might pair it with a bye week, actually, for time zone recovery. But that has to fall somewhere close to Halloween, I would imagine.
And it'll be beautiful. It'll be absolutely, it's beautiful out there anyhow. So, yes, man, I look forward to it. Now you've got me thinking about football. We're not supposed to be thinking about football. We're supposed to be moving on from football, but here we are.
So bye week plans, if you got to have a wedding, if you have to have one, the 13th of September is the first place you want to book it.
And by the way, one last time, cue it up, Tom. Let's give the people one last look. There it is, what we know. Alabama on the 30th of August. Then we get into September. It's East Texas A&M. Bye, we think. Followed by Kent State on the 20th. Virginia, your first ACC foe on a Friday night on the road in beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia on the 26th. And a home game against the Canes. And then at the end of the year, we always know Florida. So there you go. That's what we know for certain so far.
Monday night, 9 o'clock is when the full schedule releases. So you got to stay up a little bit later on Monday night, but we'll have full reaction for you on Warchant TV at that point. I don't know what staff is going to be available, but everybody kind of likes to talk schedule. So I'm sure we'll have a good roster ready to go.
It's like you and me talking uniforms. It's always welcome. Thanks for watching. Warchant.com, Warchant TV. Stay here for more. Like, subscribe, pass around, celebrate.